So I went for lunch in the pub garden with my husband. I was literally outside for like an hour and perfect. This is perfect, perfect, perfect. Except it's not. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having a great day so far and welcome to today's video where I'm going to be getting ready with you guys and trying out some new products and just playing around with the makeups. So I'm going to be trying for the first time ever, breaking news, the Keys Illuminating Serum, as has gone viral on TikTok, thanks as usual to Michaela. So I'm going to be trying that one. I'm going to be demonstrating the Goss Foundation for you guys and giving you all of my thoughts on that one. I have the new reformulated Cle De Peau concealer, the newest Backstage colour story from Dior, the Coral Neutrals palette. I've got the Chanel bronzer to try out again. Got the Nars Afterglow cheek palette and the new Phantom Gloss Balms. Is that what they're even called? From Hourglass. That's what they're called now, I guess. So if you want to see how I got this makeup look and how I feel about all of these products, keep watching. So I'm going to start off with this new Coral Neutrals palette from Dior. This is the latest in the Backstage collection of palettes. I've got on nicely with these palettes before. I like how sort of small and storable they are. If you're a makeup artist, you could fit like 10 of these in about this much space in your kit, so I think that's amazing. Yeah, so I've been kind of a little underwhelmed by this. I'm going to start off up here. I'm not going to use the primer. This is like a cream eyeshadow primer, which I have tried before and I do like it as far as eyeshadow primers go, but I'm not an eyeshadow primer girl. I like a bit of concealer set with powder as my primer, and that's what I've done today. So yeah, I think if you do like eyeshadow primers, that is a really good one. I have got on nicely with it previously. It's just not my kind of favourite way to prime my eyes. I prefer concealer. I just feel like primers just kind of don't even out everything as well as I want them to, and this is quite a thin one, so it kind of doesn't give me like enough coverage, and I have quite sort of red eyes. I prefer to use concealer instead with powder. So you can see that shade is actually like a shimmer, barely shows on me. It just kind of gives me a bit of a wash of colour to blend into even when built up quite a lot. My instinct, although this kind of looks quite rich in some shades, is that this would be more suited to fair, light, medium skin tones, just because there are quite a few lighter shades in here that barely show on me. So I think if you want to be able to use the whole palette and get your value for money, like I feel like it's more suited to the sort of fairer to medium skin tones, because there just isn't enough depth. Like even for me, like I feel like these shimmers, they just don't really show up that well. They're very, very close to like my skin tone as far as getting any pigment. Doesn't mean we can't get a nice look out of it. I'm going to go in this middle shade now. This shade is also a shimmer. It's actually quite hard to tell from looking at it where the shimmer, the only shimmer that's obvious to me is probably this one. The rest of them, it's kind of hard to tell which are shimmers and which are mattes, which doesn't really matter because even the shimmers like this shimmer, it's not really what I would class as a shimmer. Yes, it has some shine, but it's not shimmery or glittery, I guess. It's kind of, it even could class it like a satin, but it probably has a bit too much shine for that. But yeah, to me, they're not intense shimmers whatsoever. So they certainly can be used in the crease and used as mattes to give you a few more options, because there's really not a huge amount of sort of light and shade when it comes to the finishes between the mattes and the shimmers. I'm going to go into this sort of berry shade down here because I barely kind of dipped into this one yet, and I want to see how rich that is and how that can kind of build up the smokiness, the intensity of this eye. This one is definitely a matte. I can tell that. And the formulas in here do blend really nicely. They build nicely. No issues as far as things blending together and getting the pigment that I want from the majority of the shades. There's a tiny bit of fallout from that shade I think the colours work beautifully together. You can definitely get like some intensity out of this palette. It's not like, you know, they're all wishy-washy shades and you can't really get any sort of depth there. You definitely can get a bit of depth. There's just not that many options, especially when it comes to like shimmers to pack onto the lid. So I'm going to go back into the shade that we started off with, this shimmer at the top there, and apply that to the lid. The middle shimmer, this one, is a little disappointing for me in the just in the shade, in the colour, because I feel like given there's so few sort of, well, there's no kind of punchy shimmers in here. That's the only one that's really got any shimmer to it really at all. I wish it was peachier. It's kind of like just a neutral shimmer, and I kind of wish that it was a really intense light bright peach. I feel like that's what this palette is missing, because there's just none of those shimmers. Like, it really is hard to tell what's a shimmer, what's a satin, what's a matte. There's just really not that much variety in the finishes or separation between the finishes. But I'm going to try this shimmer over the top of that one and see if that can kind of give us a bit more payoff. But yeah, no, not really. Not really. You're definitely not really going to get sort of any intense sheen or glow or shimmer out of any of these shades, I don't think. It's slightly brightening it up, but it's not really adding glow. I'm going to use that same shimmer on the arch of the brow and the inner corner. But I mean, you can just see there's just not a lot of shine going there. It's very subtle. So next up, I'm going to try out the Kiehl's Illuminating Serum. This is a completely new brand to me. This is Alicia Keys' like skincare brand, now branching out into makeup. I ordered this from their US based site. Shipping and everything, taxes and everything, they show the full amount at checkout, which I really appreciate. It did take a long time to get here, at least 2, maybe even closer to 3 weeks, but customer services were great. I wanted to try this, having seen Michaela on TikTok use this, and it's just this incredibly illuminating, glowy primer. So it's called an illuminating serum, but the directions tell you to apply it after moisturizer and before makeup as a primer. So that's not really my understanding of a serum, but we'll go with it. We're just going to use it as a primer. The packaging, I think, is beautiful, so that's that. I have seen lots of people like this. I feel like Michaela sort of made it go viral, but I also have, since hearing and learning about it from Michaela, I have seen lots of other people have really good results with it, and you know I like the glow, so can't really go wrong. Oh, it smells heavenly. Just smells like beautiful skincare. It definitely feels like a serum going on. Very thin, feels very nice and hydrating, absorbing really nicely. No pilling. We love to see it. Do you know, I was expecting this to be like crazy, over the top, too shimmery, really, as a primer. But it's not. It's very, very luminous, but it's not like glittery or shimmery. It's just looking very glowy. I like it so far. So I'm going to just put some mascara on while I wait for that to work its way into my skin before going in with my foundation.
A few moments later.
Okay, so I'm going to go in with my Wayne Goss foundation today. Should I show you the lid? I don't know. Is that exciting or of interest whatsoever? Who can say? So I picked up shade 7. I was very, very happy with the shade because it works perfectly for my skin tone. And I was, like many of you, very befuddled when it came to picking my shade. There wasn't a lot of info online or swatches or models with it on the skin to kind of help with the shade selection, which would have been really helpful. So it was pretty much, you know, a punt in the dark. So I was very surprised and excited that it looked usable for me. So I have used this a good few times now, and I know how I like to apply it, and that is with my damp beauty blender. I will just splodge it is the technical term, I believe, in there until it's picked up a nice amount of product, and then I start pressing it into the skin. I have tried this with a brush, which you guys probably know is my preferred method, and it just doesn't go well with a brush. Wayne did say you should never like swirl your brush in there, it's just going to pick up too much product. So I did try a few different ways of like playing around with a brush can't speak, brush application, but I just couldn't get it to look anywhere near as nice with a brush in any way, shape or form as I could with the sponge. The sponge, I feel like, just gives you such control and it just applies the perfect amount. I think that's the beauty of this sort of cream foundation. I'm not really a cream solid foundation kind of girl. I'm a liquid foundation all the way. But the delightful thing I found about this foundation, and just the fact that it's in this solid form, is you really can be very specific with where you want your coverage and where you place it. So this is like really quite a pretty light coverage, I would say. I used a very small amount. The sponge doesn't pick up much, so that's the only thing. This is quite a time-consuming foundation to apply versus a liquid where I will go in, you know, with quite a lot, pat it in, and be there with, you know, an even medium coverage in moments. This, I feel like it takes more time and you want to build it up slowly. At the moment, this has given me a light coverage, but it's really done very well with like my redness. It's done very well at evening the skin tone, and it's just gone in to the skin very beautifully. But there's a little bit of redness just here, so again I can just dab and just go over that area. So if you're someone who likes a very natural minimal amount of foundation, you want a really light coverage, but you do want, you know, to even out things like redness and discoloration, this I found works really nicely for that. It's also ideal, I guess, for anyone who wants to do like touch-ups, because it's quite a handy little size that you could whack in your handbag. And I wish for that reason that this had like a mirror, so you could just, you know, do little touch-ups. You could use it as your concealer and do touch-ups under the eyes throughout the day and things in that way, because it does have a lovely, very natural finish and just amount of coverage. I just feel like I don't need a lot. Very, very flattering, I find, as well. It really does have like a smooth, healthy, fresh, natural finish to it, and you don't really need to use a lot to build up coverage, because I think it kind of combats discoloration really nicely without needing a lot of product or a thicker layer. Basically what I found with the brush, for those wondering, is it just kind of looked very heavy and cakey quite quickly, and I just couldn't get it to sit nicely with the brush. So I was very, very pleasantly surprised when I used it with a sponge. It was like a completely different story. I will say this gets quite glowy on me. Like, even I have applied it obviously over the Keys primer, and that's definitely 100% like amping up the glow for sure. This is looking glowier than it usually does when I first apply it, which is great because that's exactly what I wanted that primer to do, give me the glow. But this foundation is definitely not a matte foundation. I just feel like it's, I think Wayne described it as a natural finish, I think. But for me, it's quite a sort of glowy natural. It's not dewy or oily looking, but I think if you had an oilier skin type, it could be quite quickly. You would definitely need to like set and pray, presumably. But yeah, on me, it does have a very natural finish. It looks glowy and healthy and juicy and fresh. It's very flattering on like my texture and lines. It does soak into my smile lines, as you know, the majority of foundations love to do that. And it's not bad. It's like, it's just, you know, it gets in there a little, nothing dramatic. It looks really nice on my forehead and around this sort of textured area here. and I just find it really flattering, and I think it's a very beautiful foundation. So next up I have 2 shades of the new Cle De Peau concealer. I say new, this is a reformulated version of their concealer, their stick concealer. They sent me 2 shades, and I initially thought that Almond was going to be my colour, and the other one that they sent me is Honey. And I thought that would be too dark, but actually they both work on me. It's 4 Almond and 5 Honey. So I think they're basically perfect summer and winter shades on me. It just depends. If I want a brighter under eye, then I will go with Almond. And if I want to sort of match my skin tone, then I go with Honey. So I'm going to use Almond today. Now, there's a lot I've been liking about this concealer. I kind of thought that where I use it here and like down the bridge of my nose, I thought it was going to be impossible to use there, but I just turn it on its edge, and as you can see, you can do it very precisely, which is ideal. I really like actually using this stick. I think it's very quick and easy, and you can apply a very small amount quite easily. It's a bit easier to control, I feel, with the stick than like a liquid. That being said, I do find I need to use a brush to like blend this as opposed to using a sponge, because I feel like with the sponge, because it is a sort of thicker cream formula than versus a liquid, it takes a bit of working in with a sponge. Like it takes a bit of effort. It certainly can be done, but I've just found I have quicker, better results when I use my brush. And this is the Sonia G Jumbo Concealer, if you were wondering. So yeah, I mean, you can see it's very quickly worked into the skin with a brush. I just think it takes a little bit more elbow grease with a sponge. So this is kind of how I found works best for me. The coverage is amazing. Like it literally does all of my darkness and my discoloration under my eyes very, very quickly with a very small amount. And the really great thing I've noticed about this is that it feels like nothing. It feels so light, like you've got nothing under your eyes, which I think is really nice. It has a radiant finish, I think it says, but I find it to be really natural. I don't really like radiant finishes when it comes to my concealer. Typically that, I feel like it just, I don't know, it's not as flattering. But this one is very natural, so it's not like glowy and illuminating. It's more skin-like of a finish, which I really like. I found it kind of creases a tiny bit unless you set it really well. So I have just been kind of setting this a little more than I do my Pat McGrath, for example. Obviously being a cream, it's a bit of a different texture, so it's a bit more of a learning curve for me, this one, because I'm not used to working with these sticks and these creams. But once I found that I just added a little bit more powder than I do with the Pat McGrath, then I thought it looked beautiful. It wears very nicely as well. So I'm just going to have a little dip back into this shade in the Dior palette to go under the lash line. And then I'm going to do another coat of mascara, of course. Can't just do one. Are you mad? So using the Chanel, the new Chanel Le Beige bronzer today. Just giving myself a little bit of a bronze up around the forehead. I have done a more in-depth review of this bronzer if you're more interested in hearing all of my thoughts about it. But I think it's a very nice, buildable, blendable formula. I definitely think I shouldn't be using the deepest shade, but here we are. And yeah, if you want to hear more about the bronzer, then check out my review if you didn't already. Have you tried this bronzer? Which shade did you pick up? I wonder how the medium shade is and how the light, I've seen the light shade in action and it is very, very light and it is very, very warm, but I haven't seen the medium in use just yet. So I'm kind of curious as to the undertones of that one, but this one I find is a nice neutral undertone, so that I'm liking. By the way, Shiseido sent me some brushes. This is like an angled brush. It doesn't have a name on it or a number, so I'm so sorry, but it is the greatest like nose contour brush of all time. I think it's actually an eyeshadow brush, but it just picks up a really nice subtle amount of product and it literally gets right in there. It's perfect. I'm absolutely obsessed with this brush. It's just literally the greatest nose contour brush I've ever used, bar none. So next up, let's delve into this little beauty. This is the Nars Afterglow blush palette, their latest variety of these stunning palettes. This highlighter is not to be underestimated. Let me show you how pretty that is. It's so pretty, and I always expect, I don't know why, I think it's because of, I don't know the name of the highlighter. I tried a highlighter from them years ago that they were sort of known for, but I can't remember the name of it now. And it was very like, you know, over the top metallic of a highlighter, just not my typical style of highlight. And since then, I always think that NARS highlights in these palettes especially are going to be really too metallic for me. And this, I mean, it's glowy, don't get me wrong. It's glowy for sure. It's not like, it's not there, and it's, you know, a subtle wash, but it is very smooth and flattering. And you can see this side, I applied a little less, and it's actually very natural. I think it's gorgeous. And yeah, I myself underestimated it, and it's a beautiful highlight. I've really been loving this palette. These two shades in particular are to die for. Okay, this middle shade is a delight and I'm loving it. I also love the red. You can use that very, very lightly. Obviously this middle sort of coral, peachy coral shade is easier for me to use. I can use a light hand and it's less terrifying. This red, I have to use like, boop, teensy little, then tap off and then go careful. But isn't she gorgeous? Isn't she gorgeous? I just feel like the combo of those two is stunning. This shade is Savage, is it? And I actually have that in a single, so I already know that I like that one. Okay, so for lips today, I thought I would share some of the Hourglass Phantom glosses that I picked up, 3 shades of this, and I've really been liking it. I've been liking it more as I've kind of got the shades that I was looking for. So the nude shade I picked up is Trace, and this is a gorgeous nude, neutral nude glossy lip. It's absolutely beautiful. It doesn't need a liner on me, but if you want to use one, it's even better. I've liked it with Charlotte Tilbury Iconic Nude. I think that works really nicely, or Lisa Eldridge Affair works really nicely with it as well. The one I didn't love as much is Mist. This is just a bit light for my liking. I just really needed a liner with it to make it work for me. It's just a bit light. But then I saw Michelle Wong, who has all the shades, if you want to see all the shades swatched, and she used Lucid, and I instantly was like, that's what I wanted Mist to be. So I picked this one up, and it's just much, much better. Much more of that sort of peachy, bit more defined for my skin tone. So that's the shade we're going to use today. I mean, this whole look is just peachy dreams. So these do have that like plumping quality to them, which I'm not usually a fan of, but these are not like tingly or burning like some I could mention. These have like a cooling feeling, and it does last quite a long time, but it's not burning, it's not heat, it's not even really tingling. It just literally feels like cool. Your lips feel cold, which I actually really prefer to like the burning heat sensation. The cooling is much, much nicer for me, at least. But this is just a gorgeous, just the amount of pigment that you want from a nice shiny like spring summer lip. And I just think the color is beautiful and exactly what I was looking for. I wanted a lighter peachy glossy lip that didn't need a liner, and this is ideal. So here is a nice close-up of the finished makeup. We are in natural daylight, so you can see everything as you would in real life. Okay, so that is everything tried, demoed and tested on my mug, of all places. Let's start off with this Dior Coral Neutrals palette. Now, the first couple of times I used this, I was underwhelmed / disappointed, if I'm honest. I was, because there's just no real shimmers in here. There's no light and shade as far as the finishes. I'm really crying out, screaming, begging, pleading and wishing for a punchy shimmer of any one of these to just be a bit more impactful, intense as far as the shimmers. There's really very little like contrast among the finishes here, from matte to satins to shimmers. They all basically look the same on the eye. So it does give you more options. You know, you could use any of these shades in the crease, for example, but then as far as getting contrast between like your crease and your lid shade, it just cannot happen. I can't find any to be had. This shimmer, I just wish it had been a light peachy high shine shimmer, but it's just very, again, it's barely got a hint of peach about it. It's very sheer and it just doesn't give what I need it to give. So it's definitely not a wow. It is missing the color story. Wow, perfect, love it, live for it, perfect, love it. I'm a peachy girl at heart, and this was like looking like all my peachy dreams come true, but just because there's just no real oomph as far as lid shades in here, it is a little sad and underwhelming for that reason. I think the colour story is glorious. If you are someone who likes a more subtle, less beaming, less shimmer, toned down eye look, and you like peaches, this has got your name written all over it. But I do feel like it's just missing some impact when it comes to the lid shades. The colour story, they smashed it. The formulas are actually very nice. I find them very buildable, very easy to blend. They apply beautifully, very minimal fallout, etc., etc. I just want some more impact on the lid. It's just too much to ask for. One shade. We could have had one, but no. I do like the eye look that I did today. I do, but like I said, I'm just missing one impactful, high shine, shimmery shade for my lidsies. Why wasn't it in there, Dior? Next up, the Keys Illuminating Primer. I'm liking this. I like the smell. I like how nicely it went on. I love that there was no pilling. And I think it gave me some extra luminosity to the skin, which is really all I wanted it for in the first place. I think my skin looks very nice and glowy today. Obviously I did use the Goss Foundation, but I definitely can see a glowier finish to my skin than when I've just used the Goss Foundation on its own. So I love that for me. I love that. I'm very, very happy. I hope that this gets restocked. Cult Beauty had Keys, but I think this has just been sold out for a long time, probably because of TikTok again. Just bullying us. But this was the only product that in today's video that I've only used for the first time today. So I'm going to keep trying this for sure, and I'll update you in my monthly favourites, whatever month that will be. Will it be May? I hope so. Now, talking of the Goss Foundation, I really like this. It's not my favourite type of foundation. I love me a liquid. I'm just very, very boring and predictable like that. But I've been using this a fair amount since it arrived, and I think it looks beautiful. It's very flattering. It's very smooth. It wears nicely on me. I think it has a nice amount of luminosity to the skin, and I quite enjoy the change to get involved with a sponge in a little pot, and I think this will be perfect for travel. I can't wait for more shades. I'd love there to be a shade I could use as a bronzer. I think this would be a stunning cream bronzer as well. And yeah, I'm really liking it. I think it's flattering. It looks nice on texture and lines. It goes on beautifully. It's very like adaptable to how much coverage you want to use, but you can use such a thin, small layer and get a lovely amount of evening out and dealing with redness and everything like that. You just really don't need to get like a medium coverage for it to neutralize everything. I think it's very effective at doing that, and I really am enjoying this so far. I also think it will last for literally the rest of my life, because I've barely, like, it doesn't even look used, and maybe this is the 4th time I've used this today, so that's a treat. It's also gorgeous in photos, so that's nice. Now, this Cle De Peau concealer, I think this is the 3rd day that I've used this, so I'm still definitely collecting my thoughts, but I love how it goes on. I love that you can really get into the areas you need it to be. You can be very precise and use a very small amount. I don't mind using a brush to apply my concealer, and I think this applies best with a brush, and you get a really lovely, very lightweight application. Like, literally, I'm just thinking about it now. I'm considering my feelings, and I literally cannot feel anything under my eyes, which is quite rare for concealer. It covers like everything I need it to cover, but it feels like there's nothing there, and that is a treat, let me tell you. It does slightly crease on me, but what I've discovered is it slightly creases like while I'm finishing off my makeup, and it doesn't get worse throughout the day, and it doesn't kind of disappear or wear off. So there's a slight bit of creasing initially, but it kind of stays there. It doesn't get worse and worse progressively throughout the day, which I appreciate, and I think it looks really, really beautiful. And I like how it gives me quite a bright, natural under eye that's not sort of flat matte. And yeah, it wears really nicely, and so far I'm really enjoying it. Now, you know already, if you watch my review, how I feel about the Chanel bronzer. Never in my life should I be using the deepest shade of anything, but here we are. I think it's a nice bronzer. It doesn't wow me. I don't think it's incredible. I don't think you need to go and spend nearly £70 on this because it's better than any other bronzer I've ever used. That's the opposite, in fact, of what I do think. I think it's nice, it's okay. And if you can find a shade that works for you, then it's nice, but I don't think it's a wow. I don't think it's knocked my socks off, and I think it's an easy pass. Unless you especially love the brand and want a lifetime supply of bronzer, in which case knock yourselves out. And lastly, no it's not, don't lie, next up it's the Nars Afterglow palette. This, I mean, I have a lot of these palettes. I have always purchased them, and then I've been very, very blessed and lucky to be sent a few, including this one in PR. And this one stands out for me because, one, the highlight I just think is right up my street. I just think it's beautiful, very smooth, flattering, goes on gorgeously, and gives you like options. You can use it very nice and lightly and have a natural glow, or you can dial it up quite easily if that's what you want to do. You do you. These blushes, these two particularly, are just like spring and summer in a blush. They're gorgeous, lovely. I would happily rock these two every day of spring and summer, and I think they're a delight. This is too light for me. I already own this in a single, and this is never going on my cheeks because it's just not my shade, but it's a beautiful little palette. And these Hourglass Phantom Glossy Balms, I really like these. I just love how glossy and shiny they are and juicy, but without causing me physical pain from a burning sensation that feels unnecessary because it doesn't really give you any plumpiness. Now, do my lips look nice and juicy and half plump? Sure, but that's really just because I'm wearing a gloss. I don't think they enlarge my lips. I'll just say that. But it feels pleasant, it's not burning my lips off, and I think they look lovely and juicy. And the shade Trace is, no, I've lied. The shade Lucid, I'm always lying, but the shade Lucid that I have on right now is my favourite. I think it's just the perfect spring, summer, peachy gloss. It's a bit sheer and a bit natural and just a bit school runny or errand runny, whichever takes your fancy, tickles your pickle. So I think that's everything that I have to tell you about these products. Please let me know what of these that you have tried and your experience. The more the merrier when it comes to experiences of products. Please let us know in the comment section how you got on if you have tried these new products, and which you're most excited to try if you have not, or you're just not excited by any of it, you're just bored of it. And in which case, I'm so sorry I bothered you. But I hope you enjoyed this video and I'd love to see you in the next one. Otherwise, take care for now. Bye 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 bye.